Welcome to The Ordinary Show. Meher TV, I'm your host for today. I have a very special guest on this podcast, Dr. Sam, who is actually a family doctor, a veteran, and a mother of two. Dr. Sam, would you tell us about yourself a little bit?
Absolutely. So first off, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to tell my story and tell how I got here and the stories of success. So I am a family medicine physician, but I wasn't always. I started out as a child on a farm in a fairly disadvantaged for American life situation, and realized that that was not what I was meant to be. And I developed into an Army captain and then medical school, and now I'm running for office.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. So, after your introduction, I would love to actually get into this soul heartfelt talk with you. So tell us your story, the story of your success, the story of your struggles, the triumphs, tribulations, which actually led who you are today.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Central Florida, and I had two fairly educated parents for the small town that we came from. We grew oranges and cattle, and I had to take care of all the animals on the farm every day. And in the early 80s, my father was put in prison. And it kind of threw us all for a loop, and my world changed drastically. And I think it was then that I realized this is not where I need to be. I'm meant for better things. My parents, eventually, my father was only in prison for a couple of years, and it was for a real estate deal gone bad. And my mother divorced him. We moved. So I had a single mother, and we moved to the city. We moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which was, it was quite the shock coming from farm life. I lived in a very urban part of town, and my high school was not in the safest neighborhood. But I quickly realized that I needed to do as best I could with what I'd been given. So I was a straight A student. I graduated from high school a year early. I went to college at 15 and really knew, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed to do something else. Graduated from college, went to med school at 19, and met the love of my life. And
at the age of 19?
At the age of 19.
Oh, wow.
So we just had our 31st anniversary of our first kiss.
Amazing,
So, the journey goes through many steps to get where you are. And I think that's the most important lesson, is that it's not always the life that you plan. I sat down as a 19-year-old and I said, this is my plan. When I got into medical school, I said, this is exactly what I want to do. And here are my 25 steps. And here is the person I'm going to marry. And this is what they're going to look like. And this is what they're going to know.
Isn't that what 19-year-olds think?
That's what 19-year-olds think.
Life's going to be so perfect if I plan it right.
Yes. And you can't plan for life. Life happens.
Life happens.
It happens to you. And it's your job to deal with what's given to you and make it the best for you and the people around you.
They say you have to roll with the punches.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in rolling with the punches.
So what are those tools and habits and routines you developed to stay on your goal and to be successful in life?
So I think the most important part of it is being authentic. There is nothing more important than figuring out who you are and then being that person. Because if you try to be someone else, you're probably going to let yourself down eventually. Secondly would be to roll with the punches. You need to be flexible, because no matter how hard you try, it will not necessarily go to plan. So I've had a lot of curveballs in life and things that I didn't really ever imagine would happen, and taking a deep breath and keeping your eye on the goal and continuing on is probably the most important.
Wow. And would you tell me about 2 or 3 of your typical habits you do every single day, which actually keeps you, in shape, And now I know you were on TV too. You need to tell the audience about that as well.
And that was one of the curveballs.
And also keeps you in shape. You know, people take care of their bodies a lot, and that I think that's so important because your body is your temple, but you need to take care of your mind and your heart too.
I'm a firm believer in taking care of your mind. So habit-wise, I'm an early riser, and I feel like for me that is my prime productive part of the day. And so I wake up before everyone else in the house, usually around 5 a.m., and make sure that my routine tasks are done. And they're menial. We do not have a strict household, but there are certain things that need to be done. The dishes need to be out of the dishwasher. The new clothes need to be put in the laundry so that everything is done by the time the kids are up and my husband's up, and then we can go on with our actual day. So the tasks get done first, especially the things we don't like to do.
Absolutely. You're a mother of two and two boys.
Yes.
So I can imagine. So you are
lots and lots of food and laundry all the time. And we don't really believe in having extra help around. So it is all on
you.
Me, really.
Okay.
I have a fabulous husband, and he drives the younger one everywhere he needs to go.
So you're the soccer mom.
I'm part-time soccer mom.
Oh.
Part-time doctor, part-time politician, part-time soccer mom.
Part-time TV personality.
Part-time
we
TV
have a celebrity on this chat.
And the TV story really was something that kind of came at me without warning. I mean, it was truly shocking that happened. So I was in the military as an Army physician, and when I separated from the military, we came to Atlanta, and I started teaching at Emory Med School.
Nice.
We were there. My husband was teaching there as well.
So you're a teacher too, that means.
I am
a lot
teacher.
of roles.
And for me, that gives me my purpose. And I think every human needs a purpose, and they're mine. And that doesn't mean doing everything for them. That means giving them the skills and the tools that they need to be successful on their own. So when they have to take that breath and think out of the box, they can do it on their own.
Wow. So what would you say to these young women these days? Because I feel there's a lot of invisible labor of women. Because before, women, yes, were in workforce, but at the same time, now you're a mother, you're in workforce. I think we're juggling so many balls together. It's going to be daunting.
It is. And sometimes it feels like you're swimming in a sea of tasks and wearing different hats. I feel like all the different jobs can be overwhelming. And probably the biggest piece of advice that I could give to younger women is you are not going to succeed at all of them at the same time. And it's okay to juggle, but just know that there's one you and there's lots of jobs. And if you are splitting your attention between those jobs, it's okay. You don't have to be at 100% of each of them. You just have to have your heart in them while you're doing them.
Beautiful said. And I think my last question would be, what advice would you give to your younger self if you have to go back? And that probably is also going to be very pivotal to all the young folks who are in your footsteps today.
I think if I went back and spoke to my younger self, I would allow myself more grace. Being a perfectionist and being very goal-driven, especially as a younger person. I've let go of a lot. After 40...
Everything
now after
changes.
50, everything changes. But as a young person, I really did not like to accept failure. And there's some things that you will fail at. And by failing, you may learn a lot more than you would have had you succeeded in it. And I think teaching myself that as a 20-year-old would have gone a long way. Yes. I probably wouldn't have listened, though. I was very stubborn.
Yeah, so they say failure is your biggest teacher. And I agree with you. I don't think we as women give grace to ourselves.
No.
Because we say, what is the list not done? But we don't see what is the list which is done.
Yes.
Yes.
Accepting not only your failures, but then celebrating your successes is really hard. It feels like you're bragging. And I have that problem all the time. I'm supposed to be out campaigning and telling people what I can do for the world. And I downplay a lot of my successes because I don't want to come across as a braggart. I think that it's important to remember that we should wear some of our successes as badges. So we're not Girl Scouts, but we can wear those badges. It's okay.
And sometimes I think people need to see a little bit more deeper that it's not brag, it's a story. You're telling their stories, you're telling like what you've been through life. So I think, so there's a difference between that as well.
Yes. And none of it was given. These were all earned.
I can see from your story.
Earned occasions and earned accolades. And I think that's why it's hard sometimes to brag, because you don't want to be misconstrued as having something given to you. But I would also say that's okay too. I mean, that's what we try to do for our kids, is give them as much as we can while teaching them, because we never want to see suffering.
Yes. I know my last question is a little harder, but I think it's a very thought-provoking question. What would you like to do before you leave this world?
It's hard. That is very hard, because there's so many goals that we have as we age. But I think the overarching goal would be to have a purpose and feel that I have fulfilled that purpose. And for me, that would be helping the largest number of people I can.
And that's what motivated you to run for the office?
It is. So seeing patients is usually one-on-one. Teaching med students is teaching 150 people at a time to help patients one-on-one. Being in the Army, I was the head of a platoon during Officer Basic. So that was me helping 500 people.
Wow.
If we can do it incrementally like that, I really would like to help them more in the thousands or 10,000s, because I think when people are happy and they feel fulfilled, we're all better off.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Sam. I think your story is very inspiring. My heart feels touched right now.
Thank you.
And, and I wish you the best of luck, and I want you to make more beautiful stories and have more beautiful badges,
Well, thank you so much for having me.
As you grace yourself as well.
Thank you. I will try my best.
Thank you for coming to my show, Dr. Sam. It was a very inspiring story. I'm so grateful that you took out time to be on The Ordinary Show.
Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to tell my story.